back in the old days, I mean, the old days, how old was I? Must have been the 70s. There was a movie, a television series about Archie Bunker. Was it called Archie Bunker? I can't remember what it was called. All in the Family. There you are. And there's an amusing scene where Archie's, who's this middle to older aged, rather tubby, average middle class guy, is being asked by his son-in-law, who he calls Meathead, who's who takes a different view of life. Anyway, in one position, at some point, somebody's police or somebody are looking for Archie, blaming him for something, accusing him of something, and and Meathead relates the story back to Archie about somebody was looking for him, and I told him you were innocent, or and anyway, Archie's reaction was innocent of what? And and it's one of those funny moments though, because we talk about the innocent eye, the naive eye, and I just thought I should spend a couple seconds talking about that because when you've studied the stuff that we study, the stuff of the naive eye, um, your eye is no longer naive. It's just naive to those things, innocent of those other things, all those other compelling things you had to know. Now, one of the first things I heard from Gamel when I began my studies with him was you have to understand that when you're looking at nature, your head is full of the stuff. You're assuming this and presuming that, and you're being afflicted by your uh, thoughts, and you have to figure out a way past that. You have to actually begin to see what you see. Or another phrasing was, you can't see with your ears what people have told you. You have to see with your eyes. And so, but the idea of the innocent eye, that the naive eye, Monet rather introduces that idea, or at least the whole discussion circles around him, is is the necessity to let things be. Now, by the way, again, assuming you're looking at this visual ensemble, to understand that things in nature are just, to your eyes, are just color values, and some of them are bigger, some are smaller, some have abrupt joints with other things, and some have gradations of color, tone, whatever within them. But that's all there is that actually is happening before you, just here. And that is the naivete you have to have. You don't say, well, I got to go study anatomy. You got to go study the anatomy of the wings of birds if you're going to paint a bird, and the anatomy of trees if you're going to paint trees. You have to understand that if you're painting nature, that's it. We're talking about the slice of life. Everything I do, by the way, is impressionism, right? It's painting what you see before you. And I say lowercase impressionism. I borrow Gamel's word impressionism. Don't mean anything else. Don't mean Monet or anything. I mean anybody who's painting what he sees in front of him and trying to draw forth the look of nature. Now, again, remember, it's the look of nature, not the facts of nature or the truth of nature in any other way. You could say it's the truth, but it's the truth of the look of nature, not the truth of anything we know. So you can notice, by the way, when you're painting the way we do with the naive eye, that certain things begin to resemble more beautifully the form, for example, of a shoulder or a part of a back or something like that. And you're beginning to get the quality of the form. But form is a product of, you have a concept of the gradation of values, for example. And that concept has to remain free from thoughts of muscles, oddly enough, right? But anyway, that's what we mean by the naive eye. You could say it's unschooled, but then when you get to our little world, I would suggest to you it's the most schooled eye of all. In other words, to get good at this, you have to really school yourself. First, you have to school yourself to be naive about what it is and paint what it does visually. Learn to hit notes as they are in relation to each other, not as they are as if it were an orange or an apple, because the visual ensemble demands it, right? You have to actually get the relationships of the notes to actually have not just the apple, but the apple in its setting. So I wanted to make this short one just to say, don't imagine this is because we talk about the naive eye that we're naive people. In fact, I would argue just the opposite, that if you don't understand this, you yourself would have to describe yourself as naive. You're naive to the fact that the visual world is only comprised of values, colors, and all those sorts of things. And that to articulate anything in front of you, you have to be able to manage those things naively. To really do them accurately, you have to be very, very naive and just keep watching the relationships of things. So, like Archie, I'm saying innocent of what, right? Naive about what? And yet, what really happens every time you come into a painting, you have to sit down in front of nature, and you have to know nothing. You have to just become this pondering, listening, meditating, reflective soul, just an eye, and watching. And I think you'll find that this leads into the next video, which is going to be addressing the idea of fleeting effects and that sort of thing. But think about this, whether or not we really have an innocent eye once we've learned to see innocently. That is, say, once we've learned to see the world in front of us, or whether we have to actually be highly trained to do it and highly, what's the right word? I'd say, by the way, highly motivated by truth to do it. But we have to develop a whole body of practices, which by definition is anything but innocent. At that point, you're schooled, right? And you're knowledgeable, but you're not knowledgeable in the facts of the physical body. You're not interested in the guts or the structure or any of those things. You're interested in the look of nature, which contains all that, by the way. To the extent that you can see structure, you're painting what you see. To the extent you can't see structure, you don't need it. So anyway, that's just that discussion. And so do share, comment, but in any case, it's a starting point for beginning to understand what we do with the knowledge that we have as it pertains to the Impressionist mind. Anyway, okay, all right. Next time, share, comment, etc. Subscribe, do.